Kimberly Guilfoyle Show, live on Rumble, where facts come first and where news is done right. And as we close out 2024, I want to thank you for an incredible year that we had together, of incredible victories, incredible stories, and incredible achievement by you, the American people. And today we will reflect on all of it and chart the path ahead into 2025. Because one thing is for sure, as Biden leaves office, we are leaving behind the left-wing failures and ushering in a new era of America First prosperity. Watch.
Disturbing to learn late in the year about just how bad, how poor his health has become. And like many, I did not realize that it had gotten to that point. That being said, I think he's still, look, he showed up for the job. He got the work done. I think some of the accomplishments also in the Middle East and foreign policy will also stand the test of time.
You think the Middle East is in better shape today than when he took office?
Well, I think he got our hostages home. I think that's a big deal. I think it's important.
I'm sorry, which hostages?
He's gotten a number of people home. He was able.
There's still 100 people over there.
Well, there were more than
including some Americans. Look, I think he's gonna leave office in disgrace. The Hunter Biden pardon was disgraceful. He's going to be remembered largely for inflation and for the disastrous Afghanistan pullout. And I think as we continue to, we're just getting the first draft of this now, but as we continue to learn about the massive cover-up that went on, not about his health, but about his mental acuity, to cover that up, the efforts that were undertaken by the White House staff, by his family, not in the last couple of months, but for all 4 years, I think it's going to be a really ugly chapter. It's a diminished presidency because of it. And I think we still don't know the full extent of what they did to try to hide what they've been doing over in the West Wing.
And get this, even the Washington swamp is finally coming clean about the Biden-inflicted disasters. The National Archives last week finally released a photo of Joe with Hunter's Chinese business partners after hiding it away for years. And now, Democrats are dizzy trying to spin their way out of all their messes. Now, for us, in the new year, it's the same MAGA mission, and better days are ahead. And joining me now, iconic political strategist, host of the Stone Zone, the one and only Roger Stone. Roger, thank you so much for being on the program. Love the hat. I see the signature there, too.
Kimberly, it's great to be with you. Once again, I want to congratulate you.
Thank you.
On your appointment. Given the importance of what's going on in the region between Greece, Turkey, and Syria, there could be no better person for the president to appoint as ambassador to Greece than you. You have his total confidence. You have a long track record of not only loyalty, but extreme competence. It is among his very best appointments.
Thank you so much. That's high praise coming from you, and it really it means the world to me. It touches my heart. God bless you, and thank you for that. I'm excited. Here we're closing out the year, so to speak, together. When you look back at it, it was a year of historic proportions. What stands out most to you?
I guess it is. It has to be the greatest comeback in American political history, because, as you know, the president just didn't win an election. He had to overcome this tsunami of lawfare in which they tried to bankrupt him. They tried to keep him off the ballot. They tried, and they're still trying, to incarcerate him. The deep state, the two-party duopoly that has run the country into the ground, pulled out all the stops. And the amazing thing is the American people didn't buy it. What they did buy was a vision for a more prosperous, safer, more secure America. And they knew that Trump could deliver because he delivered before, because we had 4 years of unprecedented prosperity and peace in his first term. So they weren't taking a risk. The risk they took, if they took it at all, was on Joe Biden. And now we are turning the corner on what I think may be the 4 most disastrous years in American history. This guy makes the late Jimmy Carter look like a great president, and Carter was among our worst presidents. Sure. I think, by the way, commenting at a time of his passing, a good man, a decent man, a patriotic American, just way, way in over his head, and a terrible president.
Yeah, I mean, those are, tough but fair facts. And, of course, we remember him and honor his memory as an American, president, and obviously thoughts and prayers go out to his family. And let's talk about this now. Even the media and Democrats are having to grapple with, where they go from here in terms of direction as a party. We're already seeing the infighting. The National Archives is releasing photos showing more evidence of Biden's corruption. What does it signal to you?
Chaos within their party, because I think their party's nominating process cannot produce a nominee even close to the center. The Obamas, who still continue to dominate that party, have no intention of going away. They'll continue to make hundreds of millions of dollars, but they're going to try to continue to dominate the Democrat Party. I'm still trying to wrap my head around who it was that thought Kamala Harris could be a strong or even viable candidate for president. And then you learn shocking things like we paid Beyonce $10 million. For $10 million, you think she would at least sing one song, maybe just one. Or Reverend Al Sharpton. He's a regular show at MSNBC. Aren't many people watching, of course. But she paid him $500,000 to do what? His job, interviewing a candidate for president, one that he's supposed to be for? I've never heard of these kind of campaign tactics. But then when you can't fill a hall and you've got to bring some celebrity who's much bigger than you are and more popular, and then try to pretend that all those people are there for you, I guess that was the thinking.
Right.
This was the single worst presidential campaign I've seen in my lifetime. I don't even know what they were thinking.
Well, but there was two. There was Biden's and then there was Kamala's. I mean, they're both like a disaster.
Well, here's what you have to assume. They dumped Biden because they knew how bad his condition was. We didn't know because they kept lying to us about it. They kept insisting, oh, no, he's sharp as a tack. He's right on top of it. You should see him in these private meetings, they would say. They knew, particularly after that first debate, that there was no possibility that he could survive another debate with Donald Trump. I think Trump, by the way, in the phase debate with Biden was letter perfect in terms of both tone and content. Didn't take the bait several times when Biden had a few lucid moments in that debate. They knew how bad it was. That's why they forced him out. But the candidate they forced him out for was vacuous. She had nothing to run on, no positive, uplifting vision. Still, you have to admit, the president's comeback is one for the history books. No, he didn't carry 49 states like Nixon did in 1972, but Nixon was not, at least at that point, facing the full wrath and political use of the authority of the U.S. government to try to lock him up and keep him off the ballot. So this victory is a personal testimony, I think, to Trump's strength, his persistence, his resilience, his stamina, his grit, his courage. I never saw him have a discouraged day, even in the darkest days when they were humiliating him in a Manhattan courtroom. This is a guy who rolls with the punches. He is the strongest person I have ever met. And look, I worked for Bob Dole. I worked for Richard Nixon. They were tough guys, but not nearly as tough and as resilient as Donald Trump.
And that is for sure. And we are just weeks away from inauguration and, ready for big action on day one with President Trump. We've seen some back and forth over the weekend over the issue of foreign work visas. I think, debate is healthy for sure. But what do you make of the conversation that's been occurring?
Well, here's what I don't like. What I don't like is when it starts to generate down into personal attacks. I mean, our movement is very big. Our movement is very broad. In this last election, the Make America Great movement actually got broader and larger as African Americans, Hispanic Americans, younger Americans, Asian Americans joined this grand coalition in record numbers. Now, if Steve Bannon and Elon Musk have a disagreement on worker visas, they could keep it civil. I think the name calling is uncalled for. I think what you're going to end up having is reforms to a program so it serves the country best. But I wish everybody would kind of turn down the rhetoric.
Sure.
Those who don't recognize Elon Musk's extraordinary contribution to Trump's election, then they're missing the boat. I personally, having been banned for life on Facebook, on Instagram, on the old Twitter, on TikTok, I'm very grateful for having my voice back. Very grateful to Elon Musk. I think he's done great things. Does that mean I agree with him on everything? No, but I wouldn't attack him personally if we had a policy disagreement.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. How do you assess the dynamic, and the power sort of in this new and broader MAGA coalition that we're discussing, and how does it in any way compare or contrast to the Reagan Revolution or other major moments in Republican Party history?
Well, I think it's different in all honesty because Donald Trump is unique. But I think we should not get overconfident. And there's two areas
Agree.
where I'm concerned, and we've talked about them. One, they've already tried to assassinate our president twice. I'm not making that up. It's not a conspiracy theory. No, it happened. We know it happened, but we still have more questions than we have answers. You cannot expect the Secret Service and the FBI to investigate themselves and evaluate their own failures. So I'm hoping that after President Trump is sworn in, that he will appoint Robert Kennedy to a commission to examine not only those assassination attempts, but the one against President Ronald Reagan,
Exactly.
the one against his father, which was sadly successful, the one against President John F. Kennedy. It's time for the American people to know all of the facts. Secondarily, as you know, we only control the U.S. House of Representatives by 3 votes. It's a very thin margin. And while Speaker Johnson has a very difficult job, because 50% of the people in his caucus don't want to do anything. They're rhinos. They don't care how much evidence of malfeasance or criminal activity we have on behalf of the Bidens. They don't want to impeach them. They don't want to hold anybody responsible. Then on the other hand, you have the firebrands. I identify more with them, who believe that we should have a rebalancing of the scales of justice, and those who engaged in treasonous activity, either in the Russian collusion hoax or the Ukrainian impeachment hoax or the January 6th committee hoax, should be held responsible. So Johnson has a very difficult job. But if he is not elected speaker, or if we do not elect a speaker from the get-go, well, then that will delay the certification of President Trump's election. Now, the arguments that have been put forward that Trump is ineligible because of Section 3 of Article 14 of the U.S. Constitution are completely bogus. They have been totally discredited. But Jamie Raskin, Comrade Jamie Raskin, as I like to call him, has every intention to try to thwart the will of the American people when it comes to certifying this election. And that's why we Republicans must stick together. I don't love everybody in the Republican caucus, but we must stick together.
No, you're right. Absolutely. We have to have unity in the party. So let's talk about that, because President Trump today threw his support behind Mike Johnson, to stay as speaker as he faces some criticism, from the other House members. How do you read that? And what should we expect realistically from this new Congress?
Well, I was glad to see the president endorse Mike Johnson. I really don't think he gets enough credit. He has a near impossible job.
No, that's
This is
for
like
sure.
herding cats. It is very difficult to get a majority of his caucus to want to do anything. Now, was I disappointed in him in some aspects of the continuing resolution? Yes, I was. We were told there was no new spending, that these were just spending at the current levels to keep the government going. But if you examined it more closely, well, there was about $180 million in there of new worthless spending. But I still think now is not a time for fighting among ourselves. Now is a time to elect a speaker and get Donald Trump in office so that he can control his own security. That's my number one concern. There are people currently in government who know they committed crimes, who know they committed treasonous crimes, and who deathly fear that they're going to be prosecuted for those crimes. Those people are desperate, and desperate people do desperate things. This is why every day at the end of my show, whether on radio or here on Rumble, which I love, I call on those watching my show to pray for the safety of our president. When I say the rosary at night, That's the first prayer I do for the safety of our president.
That's right.
I wrote a book on the Kennedy assassination. I'm working on a book on the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan. This is my greatest fear for the safety of the president and his family.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I do the same rosary with the same prayer right at the top. President Trump has also laid out a very, bold vision for America's success, Roger. And he's discussed, regaining control, as we've seen in recent reports of the Panama Canal. He has sent stern, messages to adversaries like China. What do you see as the Trump doctrine for a second term?
This is the return of peace through strength.
Mm-hmm.
So we have really kind of two threads within our party. Peace through strength is originally the philosophy of Dwight Eisenhower, carried forward by Ronald Reagan, and then returned to the White House under Donald Trump. That's where your adversaries understand you're not fooling around, that you will back your words with action if necessary, and you use your unpredictability to secure the peace. You notice the Russians didn't invade Ukraine under Donald Trump's watch. You notice that the Chinese didn't make any moves on Taiwan or announce their intention to do so under Donald Trump's watch because they knew that Trump would react and he would react strongly and it wouldn't be pretty. What they saw in Joe Biden was weakness, surrender. The Chinese knew if they invaded Taiwan, they'd get a strong letter of objection. That would be the Americans' move. So we're going to return to peace through strength. The Panama situation is a perfect example. President Ronald Reagan warned us at the time we were making an enormous mistake when Gerald Ford, and then actually under Jimmy Carter, we gave the Panama Canal Zone, which we built, which we paid for,
Right.
which we owned, we gave it to a Panamanian dictator for $1. Now that Panamanian government is essentially under the control of the Chinese Communist Party.
Crazy.
Anybody who can look at a map can understand that this is a potential choke point for all American commerce. And the Panamanian government has absolutely refused our requests to close down the Darien Gap, which is where hundreds of thousands of military age foreigners are landing on their way to entering the United States. So the president recognizes the problem, and he's right. We may have to take the canal back. And believe me, he has the strength and the gumption to do that. It's a perfect example of Trump understanding the use of strength as opposed to the weakness of the Biden administration.
Yes, and let's talk about Greenland. This is pretty interesting. What is the strategy there, by the way, and the significance of it?
Well, that people like to joke about it, but I don't think it's a joke. Greenland could have a strategic significance for the United States because of its location. It's really not worth anything to anyone else but us. And just as Thomas Jefferson decided that, well, maybe we should acquire the Louisiana Purchase to expand the country, then perhaps this would be an apt acquisition for the United States. This is not economically self-sufficient as a standalone country. So I think it shows Donald Trump's ability to think outside the box.
And looking ahead to the spring, what will be your benchmarks for success for the new Trump administration in the first 100 days?
Well, first of all, it seems to me we've got to seal the border. There's no question about that. We have to seal the border so it is airtight. And in Tom Homan, Donald Trump has chosen exactly the right man
Amazing.
to do the job. Then we have to, I think, focus on the deportation of the most dangerous criminal illegals in the country. In other words, those who have a criminal record in this country or a criminal record in their own country. At the same time, the president's going to start allowing permits for the drilling for natural gas and oil. So you're going to see an immediate drop in gasoline prices. That you can bet on that. And the president knows that that is the centerpiece, or I should say the cornerstone of a robust economy. America's economy will be cooking within the first 2 years of the Trump presidency as never before, which is why we are not only just going to defy history by holding the House, but we're actually going to increase our margin in the House in the off year's election. Come back and look at this prediction 2 years from now, and
Yes.
you'll see that I am right. The president has a plan. This was Kamala Harris's problem. She had no plan. Her plan was to continue the feckless, worthless, ineffective policies that we were already experiencing. Trump has a game plan. How do I know that? You already saw it in his first term. Only what really impresses me, Kimberly, is this year during the transition, whereas in 2017 he really only focused on cabinet secretaries, this time he's really drilling down, focusing on who are going to be deputy assistant secretaries, who are going to be heading independent agencies like the FCC or the SEC, for example. This way he guarantees that he gets an administration that is made up of men and women who are loyal to not their agenda, but his agenda, the America First agenda. I think you're going to have the most cohesive administration in American history. He's a much, much wiser man for his first term. Now,
Agree.
look, like everybody, I was disappointed when I think the 2020 election was stolen. And yes, I do think it was stolen. But in retrospect, ironically, Trump is going to be an even greater president in his second term than he was in his first term.
I believe that to be true.
Because everything he's going through, it's been an educational experience. Now he really, really understands the swamp as never before. And he understands how the swamp tries to undo your policies, how they try to dilute, delay, and derail what the American people actually voted for. This is going to be, I seriously believe, a golden age of peace, prosperity, law and order, security, and I think freedom.
Oh, I hope so. I love hearing you say it. It's like beautiful lyrics to a song that you want to sing over and over again. And I have to ask you about this. And as you mentioned earlier in the program, you've written one of the premier books on Kennedy and the assassination. Are there any declassifications or developments that we should be pushing for? I know you said you want Robert Kennedy to head up something, but is there anything else that you feel like would be crucial or really influential in terms of getting information out there, transparency to the American people?
Well, the Kennedy Assassinations Records Act passed by the Congress gave the President Trump, and then President Biden the opportunity to declassify all of the documents. President Trump declassified about 80% of the classified documents during his first term. He was convinced by Mike Pompeo, the CIA director then, to hold back about 20%. I think the president is now going on record as saying, in retrospect, that was a mistake, and that the argument that the release of those documents would expose our methods and sources is not a cogent argument, because our sources are all dead, and our methods, well, if the American people were involved in the murder of a president of the United States, if the government was involved, the American people have a right to know that.
Absolutely.
He has pledged to release everything. It's interesting, Biden released a little bit more, but still held back some documents. It's time to release all of that. President Trump is guaranteed that he's going to do so. I know he's good for his word on that. What is it going to show? I can tell you what it's going to show. It's going to show definitively, we know most of this, but it's going to show that among those involved in the murder of President Kennedy was our own Central Intelligence Agency. That's what it's going to show.
Crazy. I mean, it's like you can't even, make it up. It's just nuts. It's like out of a movie or something. It's awful. Let's talk about something positive. I think that we both strongly agree on. The confidence level that you have in Kash Patel to deliver on, these major actions that need to take place.
Yeah, I mean, this is great. Last week is announced that William Webster, a former FBI director who is 100 years old, releases a letter in which he opposes the appointment of Kash Patel because he is too political. First of all, does anyone in their right mind really believe that William Webster either read or wrote that letter at
No.
100 years old? Not a chance. Number two, if you want to talk about a politicized FBI, I think you'd be referring to the one that we have right now. I know because they raided my house at 6 o'clock in the morning to arrest me when they had no evidence whatsoever of my involvement in quote unquote Russian collusion that never actually happened. It's amazing to me how many times Christopher Wray can lie or dodge the congressional oversight. So the politicized FBI, that's actually going on today. We could sit here and come up with dozens of examples. But if you want somebody who's going to clean house, someone who's going to return the agency to its original purposes, there is no better candidate than Kash Patel. And then to watch Adam Schiff, of all people, a guy who we learned just last week in an inspector general's report. This is not our administration, this is their administration. The inspector general for the Department of Justice announces that Eric Swalwell and Adam Schiff were caught red-handed leaking classified documents to bolster their fake Russian collusion hoax. So my question is, when will they be prosecuted? That's a serious crime.
Not soon enough.
About it, did nothing. When will they be prosecuted? This is why I'm really confident about the appointments of Pam Bondi as Attorney General and Kash Patel as the new FBI director. We're going to return not to retribution or revenge, just how about one standard of justice in which everybody is viewed exactly the same and that there are no partisan games being played? How about just having an impartial Department of Justice, an impartial FBI dedicated to the rule of law, not rhetoric about the rule of law, but the actual rule of law? Again, Kash Patel, I think, among the president's very best appointments.
I totally agree. That was the hard one, a fight, but one well worth having. So you've always said that you're not a conspiracy theorist, but you are a conspiracy realist. Tell us what that means, and what are some other big unanswered questions that we need to uncover that you personally have or think about or think people should be focused on?
Well, when I say that, what I mean is I just kind of go where the facts lead me. I mean, I didn't realize the implications about John F. Kennedy's murder. Like most Americans in the beginning, when I was much younger, I believed that Lee Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy acting alone, period, end of story. Wasn't until I worked for President Nixon in his post-presidential days, and when I asked him point blank that he expressed skepticism about that result when he said the Warren Commission was the biggest goddamn hoax in American history, that I began to examine it and produce my book, The Man Who Killed Kennedy, The Case Against LBJ, which became a New York Times bestseller. I'd like to know more about the COVID-19 virus. I'd like to know more about exactly where it came from and how it was foisted on the American people, because I think it was used as a weapon to stop the re-election of President Donald Trump. It caused him to make a very hard decision. Does he destroy his signature accomplishment, the most robust economy in American history, to try to protect the health of the American people? And in doing so, he had to know that he was endangering his own re-election. But doctors, and remember, he's not a doctor, but the doctors who work for him, the doctors in government, come to him and tell him that this is going to be like the Black Plague, that bodies are going to be stacked up in the streets if he doesn't take action and order these lockdowns and order the distancing and urge people to take a vaccination. I'm glad that he appointed Robert F. Kennedy. I think this is a very strong appointment. Kimberly, he impresses me because I've seen him on shows like yours and others. I've never seen him make an assertion or a claim that he couldn't back up with a study or
very good point.
Source. He's very, very smart. The efforts in the media to smear him as some kind of a kook or some kind of a conspiracy theorist are absurd. So yeah, that's one area what I'd like to see more, more investigation and more public exposure of what really transpired.
Yeah, and recently you personally spotlighted the issue, which is important to me as well, of animal rights and the Trump agenda. What does it mean to you?
This is very important. So during President Trump's first term, and I worked with him directly on this, he stopped the Department of Defense from conducting these really horrific, inhumane experiments on dogs. They, they had no scientific value, that we weren't learning anything. All we were doing was torturing poor, defenseless animals. Now, interestingly enough, under Joe Biden, the government went back to experimenting on animals without any seeming scientific benefit. So, under President Donald Trump, we're going to go back to limiting the government's horrific, inhumane experiences on dogs and cats and rabbits and all animals. These are God's creations. The idea of torturing a helpless, defenseless animal is the most horrific thing I can think of. By the way, Lyndon Johnson, as a boy, used to take cherry bombs, the fireworks, and drop them down the throats of dogs and cats. That was his idea of a good time. That is the kind of a mentally unbalanced individual
Disgusting.
we're talking about.
Oh my God, that's horrible. I hadn't heard that before. That's awful.
It is in my book on where I have a profile of Johnson. Johnson was a mentally unbalanced individual, but yes, he tortured animals as a boy. That tells you a lot
Well,
about his character.
psychological profile and makeup, right? I mean, that's very disturbing. Like serial killer disturbing predisposition.
He was a functioning lunatic. Even members of his own staff have admitted this. The attempts by mainstream media and the culture to try to dress this guy up as a great patron of civil rights. Really, he killed every piece of civil rights legislation through the 50s: voting rights acts, housing rights acts. He was an unreconstructed segregationist who then signed the civil rights law as a cover to get us deeper into Vietnam. And it gave him cover on the left to do exactly that.
It's unbelievable. It's, and it really, begs the point that you make, which is we really do need to get to the bottom of these things. We need transparency. We need to understand exactly what role our government has had in some of these, major historical situations. And there is a chance here to really do some greater good and get the information out there, have the transparency that the American people, deserve. And Trump had a keen eye towards all of this with the appointments that he has made thus far.
I completely agree. The other one I think is a standout here is Tulsi Gabbard. You can already see with the personal attacks on her that the intelligence community is apoplectic about the fact that she's going to be at the nexus of both the CIA and the FBI and our military intelligence units. And she's going to be able to tell whether they are being run impartially, non-politically, properly. The idea that this administration, the Biden administration, would put her, a four-term congresswoman who served on the House Foreign Affairs Committee and the House Armed Services Committee, on a secret list of domestic terrorists at the TSA so they can spy on her when she's traveling, is beyond the pale. And we have no answers as to who ordered that or why or how they justify it. But Tulsi Gabbard is a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve. She served her country with distinction in combat in both Iraq and Kuwait. So when little Adam Kinzinger, the former congressman, puts up a meme of her in a Russian military uniform, hey, Congressman, why don't you lay your service record to this country next to hers and let us compare? Oh, you never served. How about that?
Well, and I want to talk a little bit more about the media and what reforms that you think we should make to the White House briefing room and how the new administration engages with the press. There's a lot of discussion about this.
Well, look, we've seen in this campaign the move to independent journalism, which is a very positive thing. The three major broadcast networks, CBS, ABC, NBC, they're done. They're losing money. They're hemorrhaging viewers. They've been done for some time. Cable surpassed them, but now cable has lost its juice. Cable television requires infrastructure and cost to the consumers that, why do that when you can get all your news right here? Why to pay for a cable box in your home? So I think the White House press corps should include more independent journalists, more non-establishment journalists and journalistic organizations. You would never have had that during the Biden administration. I don't really see why MSNBC should have credentials. Why should they have credentials? They're not legitimate journalists. They're propagandists. I mean, Kimberly, I don't get my news from CNN for the same reason I don't eat out of the toilet. There's no reason why these people.
That's a little extreme. I like it. Dear God, I didn't see that one coming. That's very funny. I don't think I've ever heard that before, but wow, what an analogy. So, all right. So this is all so interesting. I cannot wait for Trump to get in. It's like, okay, great inauguration. I just care about the first 100 days. I just can't wait for him to get all of this done. But let's talk about, as always, Stone's rules for this new year coming up, because all your good rules have taken us to this point where we've arrived at this. So I want to make sure that we keep the momentum going.
Well, look, I think that I have a lot of favorite rules, but my favorite rule, as you know, is never quit. Never quit. I borrow it from Winston Churchill, but it is the watchword of Donald Trump. And for those of us who suffered through the dark days of this last year, where they're trying to lock our president up, or they're trying to humiliate him, his personal conduct to me is a testimony that everyone should take to heart. We are Americans. We can do anything we put our mind to if we keep our outlook positive. Now, yes, I've set pretty strong New Year's resolutions about physical fitness. Since I read Callie Means' book about a year and a half ago, I've started eating much healthier, getting more exercise. I actually find it gives me more energy to do my show, to do my weekend radio show, to do my show here on Rumble, to write my daily Substack column, to curate stuff for stonezone.com, putting in ridiculous hours. I never thought I'd be working this hard at this age. But folks need to be careful about what they eat, what they drink, getting a proper amount of exercise, getting a proper amount of sunshine. All of these things are really important. So look good, feel good. That is one of my rules in Stone's rules. I think we're looking under Donald Trump and under Robert Kennedy into having a much healthier nation, Kimberly.
No, absolutely. And I think it's so important. And we got to get into this whole thing now after January 20th. It's going to be fabulous. We're going to make America great again and make America Italian again. Make America Greek again. Greek Rican. That's what I say I am now. I'm a Greek Puerto Rican with the sprinkle of Irish in there. But my dear friend, I know you have your show coming up, which is fabulous. I encourage all of you, jump from this to that. He's got the fabulous Stone Zone coming up right here on Rumble, 5 p.m. Eastern, and you don't want to miss it. Thank you, my dear friend. God bless you.
Kimberly, God bless you, and I'll see you at the inauguration.
Absolutely. You can count on it. All right. And in the meantime, also be sure to support the 1775 Coffee Company. 1775 Coffee is brewed to perfection, crafted with precision, and built on patriotism. The farm to cup process means there is quality, authenticity, and sustainability from start to finish. All the beans are ethically and exclusively single sourced. And that is not all. 1775 Coffee stands for quality, freedom, and pushing back against a left-wing corporate agenda that's taken over so much of the coffee industry. So try it. 1775 Coffee today. Go to 1775coffee.com/KG. You will get 15% off your first order. You can start the new year right. And don't stop there. Also check out the Birch Gold Group. What did I tell you? If you want to end the cost of living crisis, vote Trump. And diversify your portfolio by investing into gold. And now in the new year, you have a better chance than ever to plan for the future. Birch Gold will take you through the process step by step, answer any questions, and help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. Super easy. And you don't have to pay not even 1 penny out of your pocket. Text KG to 989898 today. That's KG to the number 989898. I also want to bring you a special message from Patriot Lifestyle where you can save more and spend less on a whole host of different benefits, from savings on travel, identity theft, legal services, and even pet care. Take a look. Kimberly Guilfoyle here, and I'm so excited to introduce the Patriot Lifestyle Benefits Program. With our benefits program, you get a range of lifestyle benefits at an affordable price so you can save money and stay secure. For example, as a member, you will access exclusive discounts with NB Cash Back, so you can save more on your everyday expenses like groceries, restaurants, and even auto services. And with NB Travel, you can experience more but spend less by enjoying deep discounts on flights, hotels, entertainment, and so much more. These benefits are available to you and your immediate family to use anytime, anywhere. We also offer identity theft protection, so you can stay on top of any unauthorized, fraudulent, or illegal activity. And access free and discounted legal services, so you can protect your rights and receive top legal advice without breaking the bank. Plus, enjoy peace of mind on the highway with our roadside assistance program. And even take care of your furry friends with discounts on pet food, toys, medicine, grooming, and even trips to the vet. Our program is designed specifically for America First patriots like you, who understand the importance of letting your dollars reflect your values and supporting companies who support you. And the best part of all of this, our benefits are at below market prices, so you can enjoy all of them while living the Patriot lifestyle to the fullest. So don't miss out. Visit our website at patriotbenefits.net. That's patriotbenefits.net. Thank you again for choosing the Patriot Lifestyle Benefits Program, where real benefits and real savings are our top priority. Join us today and start saving now. And you can go to patriotbenefits.net to learn more, because these programs, well, they all come at an extraordinary value, and they will, in fact, greatly improve your life. And in closing, we are on the cusp of a new American revival, and it starts in the new year on January 20th, 2025. And it's all of you who are the heart of this MAGA movement and who will be at the center of making America great again. And we'll be right here on Rumble, where we reject the false narrative and always seek the truth. So please be sure to download the Rumble app, subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, like and share, and tell all your friends so they know exactly where to find us. And please, also be sure to follow me across all platforms: X, Truth Social, Facebook, Instagram, and now TikTok. Stay tuned to Rumble for all the latest breaking news coverage, and there's a lot. And don't miss Don Jr.'s big show, 6 p.m. Eastern, with author Peter Schweitzer. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Happy New Year to you and